on today's Eternity Changers. Podcaster, entrepreneur, and family coach, Carey Green. Hi everyone, and welcome again to another episode of the Eternity Changers show. Now you might be thinking, Paul, this looks remarkably different from previous shows. You're not against the white background. In fact, you're at your desk. You've got a different lower third. What's going on? Well, I'm pivoting the show to a more interview style because I figure I don't know everything. So I thought that I would bring on other people that know stuff and ask them how they've chased their dreams, how they've overcome obstacles in chasing their dreams, and anything technical in nature, since a lot of you are church tech people, anything technical in nature that they want to share as well. So the very first guest gets to be Carey Green. Now, Carey Green is a guy that I met on the Christians in Business Google Plus group, and he is also a fellow podcaster. In fact, he'll tell you a little bit about that, but he runs an outfit that once I get enough money, I'm going to have him do all my editing, because that's one of the things that he does. So without further ado, Carey, why don't you introduce yourself, tell me a little more about yourself than just a little surface level stuff that I mentioned.
Sure. Well, Paul, first of all, I'm honored to talk to folks like this. A lot of fun. About me, I call myself a lot. Youngest of 5 kids. The age, my faith is everything. That's what makes me who I am. And the Lord has been gracious to give me a great family. Been married 25 years, have 5 kids, 1 grandson, another one on the way, and have just in the last year and a half, 2 years, started delving into the online world in terms of business stuff. I was a pastor for 20 years and retired. I just felt the Lord saying that time's over. And so I've had to figure out what to do to put the bread on the table, and it's been a great step of faith, but it's been a lot of fun too. And so I'm eager to share whatever I can. I'm by no means an expert on anything, but definitely have learned some lessons, that's for sure.
Well, Carey, you talked about overcoming some challenges. Why don't you talk a little bit about the challenges you overcame in moving from the pastorate to a more business-centered role, and some of the fears that you had to get past in doing that?
Sure. I think, fears, we all have them. I think they come from different things. My biggest fear really is just, I think, not being able to provide for my family. It's a huge deal, and so I wanted to figure out ways using the internet and technology to do a couple of things. First of all, I wanted to be able to make an income through models that don't require my presence. Okay, so that I don't have to be sitting in somebody else's chair at somebody else's building 40 hours a week. I wanted to be able to set up some products, maybe some systems, some services that I could do on my time, or I could put on autopilot after a while and get it residual sort of income coming. So I've been able to achieve that a little bit. And that fear of, is this going to work? Am I going to be able to make this happen? My wife and I really struggled at the first with varying levels of belief in whether this online entrepreneur thing is really going to happen. I tended to be more optimistic because I was listening to all the podcasts. I was the one who was learning from the guys who had done it, and I was the one who was convinced. But she wasn't. She didn't have the benefit of all that, and so she would often have doubts. And so that tension that would happen between us, it wasn't terrible, but man, it was hard. And so just sticking at it while having to nurture my wife along at the same time and keep her encouraged has been a challenge, but the Lord has been good. And we're at a place where, the last year and a half I've been at this and haven't missed a bill yet. it's pretty amazing, and I can't do the math and figure out why, but it's happened that way. So it's been quite a challenge and also quite a blessing.
So along that line, is there anything that you wish you'd known before you started this that could have helped you? Something that, let's say that you ran into you 5 years ago and you could say, okay, younger Carey, this is the thing that you need to know. Let me share this with you. It'll save you all kinds of headache. Anything like that? Any lesson? It could be specific, or it could just be, a feeling or an outlook. Anything like that?
Yeah, I think the main couple of things would be, number one, research what it is you want to attempt before you attempt it. I've had all kinds of great ideas in my mind that I didn't research very well. I just thought, oh, people would love this, and so I would get all excited and get to work on something. And find out once I had a product ready or a service in place that there wasn't the demand for it that I assumed there would be. And so I've really learned to step back and let my enthusiasm cool a little bit and do some research, do some talking to people and figure out, is this really the need that I think it is? And once I'm convinced, then, man, I'm all after it. But, man, I learned that the hard way, Paul. It was tough. I have way too many ideas, and I tend to get started on too many at once. And so the struggle at first was, man, I've got to put food on the table. So I was doing things that I knew would probably be the quicker ways to make money that weren't really my heart passion, and it was just a utilitarian sort of a thing. It's just what I had to do. And so some of the things I did that are still going right now and are providing a decent amount of income. When I first left the pastoral ministry, I stepped into a role as a mortgage loan originator, and so I had to go through testing. I had to pass this silly, well, it's not silly, it's a very important test, but man, it's hard. And I realized, taking my teaching skills as I was going through this studying, that man, there's a lot of people who could use help just knowing how to study for this silly test, because it's hard, and so many people fail it the first time. And so I just began working on a course, a video study methods course that I could put up and I could advertise a little bit, and it's in a pretty tight niche. It's for people who want to be mortgage loan officers. And so this particular course just goes through the practice tests that are provided and all the documentation and the math stuff. It teaches you how to look at it, how to study in a way that makes the questions make more sense, and helps you interpret the trick questions that people think are on there, so that they don't trick you. And so I put that up and made it a pay-what-you-want model, mainly because I had already spent a lot of money trying to become a mortgage loan officer, and I knew everybody else would be. And so I didn't want to gouge anybody for an additional $150. So I just made it a pay what you want, starting at $20. And people seem to really appreciate that. And so, I mean, there's that. There's also, I'm an author to a degree. I write some nonfiction stuff on church growth and Christian growth. And also, I just finished a work of fiction. And so those are other things that I see as kind of residual income things, that the more I get out there and have a catalog of books, the more likely it is that people who like one might buy another. And so there's those kinds of things, plus the loan work. That's not an online thing at all, except that I have a loan website. But that helps as well to pay those bills.
You don't have to tell me exactly, but I'm just curious, given the pay what you want model, which a lot of people will say, well, that'll never work. No one's going to pay more than the bare minimum. Have you ever run across someone that you saw what they paid and you thought, surely they hit an extra zero, or did they know what they were doing, and then you found out, oh yeah, they did. They were just really they've been looking for something exactly like this, and since you provided it, they were happy to help out. Is that anything that you've run into? Yeah.
Well, let me make one little caveat on that. After having that course up for about 6 months, I created 2 more products, a $69 and a $99, and they include that course, but they have a lot more resources for a person once they get into being a mortgage loan officer. And so it's like bonus materials that they can pay for, and they get the course as well. But having said that, I don't sell many of those compared to the others. That $20 pay what you want is the main seller. And Paul, at this point, I mean, I don't mind talking about the figures. I'm bringing in around $1,000 every 30 days on that. And it's, you know, there are people who pay the 25 to 20, and that's all they do. It's not uncommon to get 25 or 30. And then there's that generous person now and then that'll put 50 or 75 or something like that, and it's really a blessing when it happens.
Along the lines, you mentioned that you're doing a lot of work online. Are there any technical difficulties that you've had to overcome, or things that you needed to learn as part of the process that, frankly, they don't teach you in seminary? I know
Sure.
I went to Asbury Seminary, which is where I picked up video work strangely. But just anything that you picked up that you wish you'd known, or any difficulty that you overcame that you think now, oh, this is just such a good little nugget that I wish I could share to everyone.
I've had to learn everything, you know. So I've had to learn some graphic art stuff. I've had to learn website development, and I mean every website I have I've developed using WordPress. And I did come across a really generous guy, lives in upstate New York, who is a web developer who liked what I was doing and said, "Hey, can I help?" And my goodness, he saved my bacon more than once, you know. So I wish I had learned more of the back end of the website stuff, but the Lord provided somebody who can help me with that when I run into problems. But one of the things that I just continue to shake my head about in terms of how powerful it is podcasting. I'm just amazed. I mean, I was a pastor for 20 years, so I love to teach. And podcasting enables me to continue doing that at my ministry website, and in learning how. I mean, within the first week, Paul, that I had my podcast out, there were people in Madagascar downloading my podcast, and I was just befuddled by that. How in the world can I have this kind of a reach with just a 30-minute little thing that I put together? And you know, anybody who's in business or who's got something valuable to share with people, man, podcasting is the way to go. And I know there's a lot of people who are technically not able to do a podcast. They just don't have the time, don't have the interest. And so that's why I created one of my other businesses where I do the podcast production for. So it's a lot of fun.
That is I just think that's a brilliant idea. Why don't you tell right now, while I'm thinking about it, where anyone who's interested in that, who said, well, I can record stuff, but the whole editing ID3 what? You know, those don't make sense to them. Where could they reach you for that?
Sure. Well, my website for that is called podcastfasttrack.com. It's all one word, podcastfasttrack.com. And I've got 3 different packages that you see on the front page, but there's also custom things I can do, just whatever it is you're interested in doing. We can figure out a way to make it happen. And the way that I think of it is you know, I want somebody to be able to hit record, talk, hit stop, send it to me, and I take care of everything else. It just makes it so much easier for them, get a load off their minds.
If everything were to work out just as you envision, and in some amount of years you arrive at what's in your head that you'll be doing, what would that look like? Where are you headed if everything works out?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would have enough products and courses maybe put together that the income from those were my entire income. I wouldn't be doing mortgage loans anymore, as great a blessing as it's been. And I would be devoting all of my time to my marriage and family coaching ministry at ChristianHomeandFamily.com. I would be setting up events. I would be setting up speaking engagements. I would just be pushing that all the way. That's really where my heart is. And so, in my view, all the business endeavors are to enable me to do that. And it's one of those things that I desire everything on that website eventually to be absolutely free of charge. I don't know if you're familiar with John Piper and his ministry, Desiring God. Every book the man has ever written, which I think is like 40 now, you can download for free from the Desiring God website. You can also pay for a hard copy if you want it, but if you want a PDF, you can get it for free. I want to do that on my website. I want to get every one of my books free, every product I ever create free, every course I ever create free, because I want the message that I've got to just go out to anybody. I don't care. Now there's one aspect of what I do through that website. My wife and I provide what we call marriage intensives. It's like a 4-day thing for couples to come together and really work through some issues that they may be facing. Those I don't think I will ever do for free, because the couple needs to have an investment in that. This money, we got to make this happen. And that kind of a motivation really brings about some great results. So that's my dream. I would love to be doing that ministry full time.
Just a quick question. We're almost done here. I was curious, what is your podcast about? Is it the marriage and family enrichment stuff, or is it one of these other areas?
No, my podcast is the Christian Home and Family Podcast, and I started out doing interviews, much like what you're doing right now, and occasionally would have some teaching that I would do. But what I decided most recently was to pare down my episodes into smaller bite-sized chunks. And so my longest episode now is like 15 minutes. Some of them are even 5 minutes, and they're just real quick bite-sized nuggets of biblical wisdom for family life, marriage, parenting, those kind of things. Just before we got on the video, I was editing, one of my more recent episodes, and I try to do a batch sort of a work on that, where I'll do 5 of them at a time on one day. Then the next day I'll edit all of them, and then the next day I'll upload them all and get them on the blog, and then I'm set for a month. So I can just focus on other things, and that's really the only way I can keep doing the podcast, because I'm doing it video and audio, and so it really takes a lot of work. But if I can get it in those 3 days, it makes it a lot simpler on my life. That's for sure.
One last thing, Carey, if people wanted to reach you, where would they get a hold of you? What's the best way to do that?
Yeah, the easiest way is just my name, CareyGreen.com, and that's kind of a hodgepodge website. I've got a blog there, but I've also got links to all my entrepreneurial endeavors and the ministry and all those things. Everything's right there. So that's probably the easiest way for folks to find me.
Well, thanks so much for your time. Thanks for making this first interview just really a pleasure, and not nearly as difficult as I'd feared that it would be. And just thank you for all that you're doing online to go out and change eternity.
Yeah, you're so welcome, Paul.
Until next time, I just want to say to the audience, this is your turn. Take some of these lessons and see what you can do. See places where you can go out, take the next step, get past your fears, and do what God has really, really called you to do. Until next time, this is Paul Allen Clifford with TrinityDigitalMedia.com. Head over to patreon.com/Paul Allen Cliff. That's patreon.com/PaulAllenClif to support the show. Your support really, really matters. So thank you.